Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to Ramacrow. It's time for another voicemail. Today's voicemail is from Marky. Let's listen to what Marky has to say.
Hi, Lloyd. My name is Marky. You're welcome to post this on your channel. I just recently, maybe about 2 months ago, started learning things about the organization. Up until then, my entire life, I've always been a very devout and dedicated witness. I've always had problems with certain doctrines, but I made the regular excuses that we all make to make it make sense. And I let a lot of things happen to me for the sake of this organization and its teachings. I've let sisters try to micromanage my faith. That's a thing. And be competitive and petty and judgmental. I let my husband, who claimed to be a witness, I let him abuse me for the entire 11 years that we were together. Towards the end, I got to a point where nothing made sense anymore. I needed out. Me and my kids needed out. It was do or die at that point, and I begged the elders for help and for guidance and counsel, and they just told me, stick with it, keep going, the end is almost here. I got a whole bunch of wifely advice, and I got a whole bunch of warnings of risks and dangers of what could happen if I chose to separate anyway. Well, I knew the risks, and I separated anyway against their advice. And at first I had some support from the sisters. They helped me with my kids up until it came time for me to get my own job so I could support my sons. And that job required me to start working every other Sunday. And it did not take long at all for my friends to turn on me and cut off all support. I almost lost my job. I lost all my friends. I didn't understand how this is right. How is this right? So I started all those questions that you bury. They just kept weighing down on me, and finally I just couldn't take it anymore, and I left. I stopped going to meetings. I met a wonderful man. I'm in a relationship with him now. I mean, I'd already lost all my friends anyway, so. But even with all of that and everything that happened there, I had a judicial committee and everything, but I did not show up for the last meeting, the last judicial meeting they wanted to have. So I'm technically not disfellowshipped because I refused to talk to them at this point. I still believed everything though, for the most part. I mean, I had my questions and I had anger, but it wasn't until 2 months ago, my brother showed me the Australia Royal Commission videos, and it shook my whole world. Everything has changed. I can't unknow any of this anymore. But my dilemma right now is that I made the mistake of sharing my findings with my mom. My mom is my best friend, and she's an excellent mom, and I couldn't ask for a better mom. However, she is an older generation witness, so I found out devastatingly that it does not matter how much evidence I gather, she will not believe the things that I have to say. So right now, the problem I'm facing is that she wants to study with me. She wants to re-indoctrinate me. She blames herself. She wants to take over teaching my kids, and I don't want that to happen. But I also don't know how to go about it without losing her.
Thank you so much, Marky, for leaving that message. That was another heartbreaking message to listen to. And my heart really goes out to you for what you've been through. Unfortunately, the way this organization deals with abusive spouses, deals with domestic violence, leads so many to your situation where elders are just not interested, or they're saying, stick it out, stay with your abusive spouse, because the only grounds for a divorce, as we all know, is adultery. And if there's been no adultery, even if your spouse is beating the crap out of you, which, I'm being blunt here, but, I'm not saying that was the case with you, but you did mention that your husband was abusive. Even if your spouse is violent and endangering your life, and I noticed you said your situation was do or die. They could be endangering the life of you, they could be endangering the life of your children, but you're still talked out of divorce or separation. And separation in a JW context obviously means that you can't move on in any other relationship. You have to basically put your life on hold and consign yourself to not finding love. How are you supposed to do that? So you ultimately move on in your life with a partner who loves and appreciates you and who isn't abusive, and end up getting disfellowshipped. Well, you say that you're technically not disfellowshipped. I appreciate that, you will take your own view on this, but unfortunately the way it works is that simply not attending your judicial committee doesn't mean that they didn't disfellowship you. They can obviously do that in absentia. But in any case, you end up disfellowshipped for finding a solution that works for you, for getting a bit of happiness. That's all that's happened. And what's interesting is that they were already shunning you at this point. The whole point of disfellowshipping is supposed to be an act of love intended to bring someone to their senses by the withdrawal of any contact with the congregation. Well, the congregation were already shunning you purely because you were working every other Sunday. Apparently it's all about Sundays. Who knew that there's a Bible verse that says that Christian meetings have to take place on Sundays? And we all know that not all Jehovah's Witness meetings do take place on Sundays due to congregation mergers and that sort of thing. But who knew that there's a Bible verse that says that there has to be a meeting of Christians on a Sunday and you have to attend every single one of them? Who knew? That verse must have escaped my attention in the many years that I've been a Jehovah's Witness, and indeed since then. But in any case, it's suffice to say that the situation you spell out is abominable in terms of the way you were treated. And no woman or man should be put in a situation where they are at existential risk, or even just risk of being harmed, purely due to fanaticism of a group like Jehovah's Witnesses. where everything needs to be literal, everything needs to be followed in terms of their interpretation of the Bible, even to the point where human life is in the balance or put at risk. So I really want to extend my sympathies. Coming onto the issue, you call it a dilemma with your mother, who you describe as your best friend. She wants to study with you, and she wants to take over teaching your children. And you're frightened of losing her. I don't really see the dilemma, if I'm honest, because you have first-hand knowledge or first-hand experience of how damaging and harmful this organization can be in one's life. And you have a mother who wants to take over with the teaching, or with the, basically, let's put it frankly, she wants to indoctrinate your children into this group that has caused you so much pain and misery. That wouldn't be a dilemma for me. I mean, I can only speak for myself. As to studying with you, there too, I struggle to understand. I don't struggle to understand your situation, obviously, but if I were in that situation where I had a parent who was essentially saying, you need to join my religion, or at least take the first steps to joining my religion, I would say, well, that's not how it works. You know, you don't forcibly convert someone. That should be obvious. You know, a person's faith, a person's religious beliefs are personal. You know, they're I know I'm stating the obvious at this point, but that's the weird and wacky world of Jehovah's Witnesses, isn't it? They don't see it that way. They see it as their business to, at least in this case, to drag their children into their belief system. And the thing is, you're not a child anymore. You are, I know you're her child, but you're not a child. You're an adult with quite a bit of experience and the freedom to decide these things for yourself. So that too would not be a dilemma. It's just my age. You know, you get to 43 and you start to become aware of the fact that life is finite. I think when you're younger and you're like a teenager or in your 20s perhaps, you have this kind of feeling that you're almost invincible and life's just going to go on and on and on. You're going to age really, really slowly, you know, and you've just got all the time in the world. And then before you know it, you're 43 and you're thinking, wow, you know, I'm halfway through my existence as a sentient being. And, you know, you get to that age, or my age, and you just don't want to take any BS anymore. So that honestly would be my position. I would be saying, I'm sorry, I want to be loved for who I am, and I'm not interested in conditional love, which is what you're proposing. And I certainly am going to have to put my foot down on your designs toward my children, in that you apparently want to indoctrinate them. That would be my position. Having said all that, you are an abuse survivor. Let's put it that way. You have survived 11 years of abuse, of marital, spousal abuse. And that takes a toll on one's mental health. Just being in a cult takes a toll on one's mental health. It's called religious trauma syndrome for a reason. It's a traumatic experience having years or even decades of your life taken from you so that you're not in full control of your own life. That's trauma by itself. You have the added trauma of having been for 11 years in a do or die abusive marriage. So I know I say this in so many voicemails, but I really do need to say it. This is a case of intervention in terms of mental health support. You need to see a counsellor or some kind of mental health practitioner, be it a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm just a YouTuber, you know. I write books, I make YouTube videos. I have zero credentials when it comes to mental health. And what you've described is trauma. There's nothing that I can help you with there. Unfortunately, I'm just not qualified to help you. And I can understand why, as someone who has been through a lot of trauma, you've been through a lot of trauma, I can understand why you would be frantically trying to hold on to any kind of support or any kind of family that you can get hold of. And I can understand why you would be terrified of losing your mother. But I speak as someone who basically lost his father for the same reason. There's not much you can do about it, I'm afraid. Well, actually, there is something you can do about it. It's get the help you need in terms of mental health support, and also build your own family. Why does your family have to be people who share your DNA? Your family are those who care about you and love you for who you are without any strings attached. They just love you. I realize this might not be what you want to hear. I'm also mindful of the fact that you were a believing Jehovah's Witness, or you believed in Jehovah's Witness teachings right up to, I've worked it out based on the date of the voicemail, right up to August of 2022. That's very, very recent. Very recent. So these are very early days, and it's likely that there are going to be even more revelations for you ahead. You know, I'm still learning now. How long has it been? 12 years? 12 or 13 years after waking up? I'm still learning stuff about how this religion has lied to me and deceived me. And you're just a few months into that process. So it's very much early days. You are a survivor of trauma and abuse. Please take your situation seriously and deal with it with the seriousness that it deserves in terms of getting the professional help that you need. That would be my advice. But I really do thank you for calling in, and especially for highlighting what it's like for women, or many women in the Jehovah's Witness organization, when it comes to spousal abuse, and particularly the indifference with which your abuse was met when it comes to the elders and when it comes to others in the congregation. This is supposed to be an organization of love. This is supposed to be love that never fails. It failed before they'd even disfellowshipped you. I think that says it all. But thank you so much for calling in. If you would like to leave a voicemail, the thing to do is go to speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering to indicate clearly if you don't want me to play your message on this channel. But that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for watching.